What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Welcome back. It's been about 2 weeks since I've made a video, and today I'm joined by my Twitter mutuals over here, Carter. Very smart guy, very incisive commentary on a lot of different things. Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of know who I am. Jordan B on Twitter. Carter, did you want to do a quick intro on yourself, as much or as little as you want to give about yourself?
Yeah. Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Carter. I'm on Twitter at Alchemist Carter.
I'll tag you in the description.
Yeah. Jordan's a friend of mine. Kind of an online. We're like mutuals, and I think we approach a lot of these issues in a similar way. We're both America First conservatives. We both also think what prompted this video. By the way, I'm a college student. I study philosophy and political science. I'm in my senior year. And but anyways, yeah, Jordan and I have always sort of kind of connected online, and and so that's sort of what led us to want to get on this call and sort of talk about things and the way we look at sort of normie culture.
It's a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah, I'll let him do the introduction, but yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Nice. So yeah, as you guys can probably tell by the title, today we are going to be talking about Midwit theory, the psychology of the midwit. I think I think as the video goes along, we'll kind of see why that's important today, and actually the impact that it has on society and kind of where public discourse is headed right now. But yeah, we're going to be talking about midwit theory and kind of how that impacts current events. The first one we'll get into after we get over kind of the explanations of midwit theory will be the vice presidential debate analysis from last night. Midwit theory does tie in surprisingly nicely to the VP debates we saw last night. So, as my guest, Carter, how do you kind of how do you look at midwit theory, the midwit? Like, how would you define the midwit?
Well,
for someone who's just walking in the door, they type in midwit on YouTube and want to find a video of what it means and just an analysis of it. Like, how would you? Because we've had so many convos about the midwit that right. It's like we assume that everyone knows, but they don't.
Right. To us, the difference, the parallel is so stark, or the difference is so stark. And then, but it is interesting. How do you actually deconstruct and sort of explain what the psychology of the midwit is? And it's an interesting thing. And what I'll say initially is, I think we should be clear in saying that by midwit, we don't mean someone necessarily of average intelligence, or someone who, is middle of the road intellectually and isn't, and that's not what we mean by midwit. I think by midwit, what we mean is it's more so a description of how do you see the world? How do you see society? How do you look at what is your capacity to critically evaluate cultural happenings? And so for me, what a midwit is someone who, and the people who look at your videos, they'll understand what we mean by this. But to me, a midwit is someone who just doesn't get it. Someone who doesn't really have a critical understanding of how the world is, how it operates, its functional nature. And being a midwit manifests itself in a variety of ways. It's going to manifest itself through your political convictions. Republican and Democrat. That's plenty of. This is an important distinction to make. Is it's not like if you're a Democrat, you're a midwit, and if you're a Republican, you get it.
You're this big brain.
Yeah. Right. We'll get into that, but there are just as many midwits on the right as there are on the left. Now that maybe their nature is slightly different, but their general outlook and approach to life and society is fundamentally the same. Exactly. And so that's what I'll say briefly. And then I think as we get into it, we'll be able to further illuminate how that, how being a midwit manifests. So, but if you want to also kind of give
thoughts. It's kind of funny how it worked out. I was watching a video, and assuming that a lot of the people that follow this channel know who this is, Steve Franson. Steve Franson did a really good analysis video the other day of some, I don't even know her name. She's some deep state actor who's one of those DC intelligentsia people whose her whole role is to fight disinformation and stuff online. And Franson had a really good point, and he pointed out this take from Darren Beattie. This is just like a quick anecdote, but he said that a low IQ person, when they're doing a video or in their house or something, their background, right? A 90 IQ person has no books behind them, right? They have no books, they have no deep readings behind them. He said a 90 IQ person would have none of that.
I already know where you're going with
Oh,
this.
100,
I haven't seen the clip.
but you know where this is headed. And this is Darren Beattie's take, and it's dead on. It's spot on. Darren Beattie says that a 100 IQ person maybe has a couple books. 115 to 130 IQ person has stacks of books, and they are going to show you everything they've ever read their whole life. And look at these pages, and I've annotated all this. But then when you do a video and you're like, and again, this video isn't to like flex our IQ here. That's not the goal of this. It's just to really like break down how to look at the world and manipulation. But a 130 IQ plus person doesn't have to flex to you how much they've read. Like I don't need to have scores of books behind me. It's like my cadence, my ideology, my worldview. It actually, people know you're smart. You don't have to flex it. And the midwit is kind of that person who's overeducated, overly socialized, to quote Uncle Ted, overly socialized, and they have to prove to you how smart they are, and they're really dangerous because they're smart enough to string together wordy sentences that make low IQ people feel smart and give a little credence to a dangerous worldview. But they're not smart enough to really break down their worldview and say why they believe it's that way. They'll string together sentences about, systemic racism, structural injustices that have happened to underprivileged communities, without ever really breaking down why they believe that. And it's really dangerous to low IQ people because they hear this worldview delivered to them from some high level that they view as high level, as some sociology degree person with the 110 IQ. That's the midwit. The midwit is the person that's going to string together very wordy, elaborate sentences, and there's nothing at the end of it. So I think that Franson's example of Darren Beattie is a very good and prescient one.
Quickly, did we have a little cutout, or was that just me?
No, you froze. You froze for a second, but it's
okay. Good. Yeah. Well, I heard what you were saying, but
yeah, I think
one thing that you said was, with the midwit, they have to prove to you how smart they are, and I think that's true. And I think to compound on it it's a person that thinks like external validating factors are an indication of their intellectual capability. So when I think about me being in college, I look at people and they think their intelligence is defined by not just the completion of their degree, but how they like sort of interpreted things. They're like, oh my God, like, I'm like, I read Aristotle and like, so I did this and I just here's my paper on it. And like, this is, and it's not, I mean, if you can write intelligently, you can write intelligently.
Sure.
You can write intelligently, but even with an example like that, with a midwit, that's the entirety of where their intellectual validation comes from and there's the way they look at their own intelligence is like receiving, like I've said a couple times, validation from like institutions and from academic figures. And if you say something that a person with a piece of paper that says PhD agrees with, that necessarily is a confirmation of your intellectual abilities.
Yes.
And exactly. It couldn't be further than the truth. But I think what that indicates more than anything is fundamentally a lack of ability to critically evaluate theory and information. And so you're looking to another person as a source of unilateral validation for your intellectual prowess.
Right.
That's what happens. You see it so much on college campuses. So when I'm in class, I oftentimes have spirited exchanges with professors where oftentimes they're the ones to tap out. They're not always confrontational. Frankly, I rarely have confrontational exchanges with professors. But let me tell you how the midwit functions. The midwit says they have an idea and they say, well, professor, what so on page 86, wouldn't this mean, that like they and they'll try to draw some sort of application and the professor's like, well, no, because da da da. And he's like, okay. And he like scribbles out his little
Yes,
paper,
yes,
writes. And so they've been, it's like a little dog and they just got reprimanded and they're like, "Ah,"
exactly.
and they just wince. And so, and they're like, well, wait, why is it, you know what I'm saying? And so I've had exchanges where I've disagreed, and this doesn't just go for me, but I'm just setting an example because I'd like to think I'm not a midwit. And so I've had exchanges with a
The
professor
struggle of not
and
being a midwit is hoping. The struggle of being better than a midwit is you're worried that you're not a midwit. And that's a sign right there, because the midwit doesn't know they're a midwit. The higher
right,
IQ
exactly,
person is like,
exactly.
oh, damn, I really hope I'm not that. But even that's a level above that, because you have a level of self-reflection.
That's exactly right. What it is with the midwit, I think more than anything, is a complete lack of cognition and self-awareness to actually take a step back and look at the superstructures that they're allowing themselves to be defined under.
Correct.
That's allowing to define all the characteristics about them, their intellectual abilities, whatever. But they've never taken a step back consciously and said, well, like I just said, what are the structures that are defining what's intelligent, what is whatever? And so that's what it is. I think fundamentally is that lack of critical self-awareness, you know.
And you being someone in college, because I have a couple of years on you. I'll be generous to myself. A couple of years on you, not too many. But you being someone in college, you see this firsthand, actually. And the way that I see it, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, the way I see it manifested most acutely is in studies like critical race theory. And that's why I liked your tweet so much earlier about, well, we don't need to talk about the tweet specifically, but critical race theory is the embodiment of the midwit given intellectual uh, status in
Prestige.
the
Yes,
prestige
right,
status in the
right,
university,
right,
because
right.
this is a 120 IQ person who is able to explain away all the failings of minorities just by stringing together wordy sentences about,
Right,
well, the structural and systemic oppression of all minorities and black and brown bodies.
right.
And it's like, you are saying big words that 90 IQ people are going to repeat to their 90 IQ
They'll be
friends.
like, wow. And you're
Wow.
just a straight up, and you're just a, and you're actually just retarded. You have
Yeah.
no, and I love what Darren Beatty says. And I was saying, I've been saying this the entirety of my college career, but what I love what Darren Beatty always says is, you've never had an original thought in your life. And
Right.
this is the problem. This is the problem specific to critical race theory. When you attach ism or isation, when you attach these fancy suffixes at the end of words to a bunch of retards, and disseminate it to a bunch of idiots who have no idea, they're never gonna, like I like this, and I'm gonna say this term all the time, but this is, I think, again, fundamentally what distinguishes a midwit from a person who's a midwit from a non-midwit, because I think at the most basic level we can reduce it to midwit and non-midwit, is the capacity for critical evaluation. That's what it is. That's what the midwits don't have. Okay.
Right.
So, anyways, with something like critical race theory, it's fancy writing with these big words and whatever, and they just say it to a bunch of idiots, and these morons are like, oh, okay, that's like, it's the systemic, I as a white person, am complicit in structural whiteness and the oppression on black and brown bodies, and
Black and brown bodies.
whiteness and white and whiteness is a um and whiteness is a extent is an capitalism is an extension of whiteness, which is
What
oriented towards like,
while in the same brain, they will hold the idea that race is a social construct, meanwhile doubling down on
right,
the concept of
right,
whiteness being inherently white supremacist. It's like, you've
right.
never even confronted this contradiction in your brain.
Well, there's so much cognitive dissonance, and this is the problem specific to the left, it's the unfalsifiable nature of leftist theory, of contemporary leftist sociological, cultural, anthropological theory. Is it's unfalsifiable. You can't prove it wrong. You can't prove it. It can't be definitively disproven. And because of their control over every significant institution in the West, particularly academia, is that it's indicative of direct democracy. It's mob rule.
Right.
And so you have a bunch of academics who are like, well, according to Bob Fuckface, professor of
Right. Well,
professor of sociology at the University of Poopville, which is
University of Pee Pee
which is a
Poo Poo
top
Land, and
five,
it's like,
right?
okay, I don't.
And it's like his critique of because critical race theory is valid because it accomplishes X, Y, and Z, and so people are like, and this is the thing, we're at a point with our intellectual progression, not even saying we're smart, but in terms of the progression of our critical thinking operations, is that we see things like having a source or like an authoritative voice on something is literally a meme to like
Exactly.
our
Well,
social media
and
people, like our just the people who think like us. Just really quickly, I want to say it. So that's another example of midwits and the way they think is that it's the deference to authority. It's
exactly.
automatic.
Well, and
And just like with the professor example I used.
and one of the things that really solidified midwit theory for me, and it's one of those things where it's like when I tell someone about midwit theory who's actually really smart, they get it immediately. Like a boomer who's like
Mhm.
actually like high IQ, and I tell them about what midwit means, and they're not online, so they don't understand the memes and stuff. My uncle is
Right.
like that. I told him about it, and he's like, "Holy shit, that's true," about the books in the
Yeah.
background. So one of the
Right.
things that really solidified that for me was there was the bell curve meme where the left and the right end of the bell curve are saying the
Right.
same thing but in different font. So
Right.
on the left end of the bell curve, which on this screen it's the right, but on the left end of the bell curve, the low IQ spectrum, you have a grug man, a caveman saying, trust my gut. I trust my gut. And on the far right end, you have a scientist holding up a test tube saying, I trust my gut. And in the middle, you have a crying Wojak with bleeding eyes saying, but no, there was a study from Stanford that tells you don't trust your gut. And actually, when you go, you're actually safer in the blackest part of the city than you are in the most Asian part of the city if you look at the meta-analysis of the meta. And it's like, I know my gut. I know I'm smart. I know not to go into the minority filled areas after dark. And I'm not going to listen to some Harvard professor who says otherwise because it's on a piece of paper with a Harvard watermark on it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do that. So it really boils down to memes like that. And that's why the meme is so powerful. It boils down to memes like that, where it's like, trust your gut. I don't need a study to tell me that, I'm more at risk of a group of black men robbing me than a group of Asian men.
And you know what, to build off your example, is I think meme culture in itself is an indication of people's ability to grasp concepts in an abstract manner,
And boil them
which
down,
is a
right?
which is a function of critical analysis and critical evaluation. Because there's one of the most common phrases, the left can't meme. It's because they can't. Things like simple memes that convey a greater overarching truth, it's stunted. That ability to comprehend it is stunted by the neuroticism of these, in this example, these left-wing people. Because they're like, well, wait, because in this, like, this might not actually be because like da 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 da, and they'll try to. It's like, no, dude, I promise, like, you're just stupid. Like,
I
it's like,
promise you.
I promise, like, you're just a neurotic retard.
Right.
And so, but it's like, and maybe it sounds harsh, but it's so true. Is it's like these people, again, in this example, we're talking about left-wing people. They have that because we know so many of the left. And again, we know the data. If you watch this and and you need to go look at the data, go look it up for yourself. But we know that the people on the left far more mental illness, neuroticism, all these other different
They're
things,
drugged
and
up.
that
They're drugged up.
yeah,
They're
and
neurotic and they're on drugs.
they're on antidepressants and just loaded up with big pharma Pez container, all different colored pills. These people are on pills, and they don't even know that's ruining it's affecting their hormonal, like, whatever in
Their
their body, and it's
entire
affecting the way they
chemical
think.
makeup. It's like you're
Right.
not looking at the
It's just jumbled. It's completely out of whack. And that manifests itself in the way, even at the most basic thing, like looking at a meme, it's going to present itself. And again, when we talk about a midwit, it's the inability to recognize if you're on drugs, like if you're on a drug, like if we smoke meth,
Mhm.
or marijuana or whatever,
I
cocaine
agree.
or whatever, you it doesn't take a high level of consciousness to recognize this is affecting the chemical makeup of my mind, and right now in this moment, this is why I'm perceiving things differently, behaving differently, et cetera, et cetera. But you don't ask the question when you're on antidepressants and when you're on Zoloft or whatever, like
Mhm.
anti-anxiety shit, like you're like, and the rich white guys are like, I'm depressed, and so they get just prescribed Xanax or
Yeah.
Zoloft, whatever.
Well, and the
But
other
again, they don't have that level of consciousness to make that recognition.
right, and I think another problem that we have as a society today is that we've empowered the midwit. We've given them social status to where when, like you just said, it's a perfect example. When a girl, frankly, in this vacuum of abusing prescription drugs and antidepressants, it is white women for the most part on that specific example. When they
Yes,
go on
right,
Twitter and
correct.
TikTok and Instagram and they're talking about how depressed they are and they're talking about their their anxiety and their depression and their PTSD over how their father left them, they're given social rewards when they do that. Everyone pats them
Right.
on the back. Everyone says you're such a queen for that. You're awesome. You're epic. And
And you
here's
coped with it. You coped with it by doing sex work, and
here's
you
the
did, and like
dopamine.
you,
Here's the money. Here's the
right,
dopamine. You are great.
right.
You're a good person because you're morally deficient.
And it's this enduring cycle of self-destruction where we've empowered people to not just engage it, but to promote degeneracy, and to the only time I'm going to unironically use a leftist term is we've normalized it.
I
I,
know.
I hate you. I hate using that
No,
word,
that's actually
but
like the
it's
only
true.
time it works because it's meta level true. It's like we've
But again,
normalized it.
right. And but this is also the thing about the midway, and it is the thing. And anyone who follows me on Twitter, I stay going off of what I like to call low IQ content, low IQ tweets. The tweets, they've got 200,000 retweets, 600,000 likes, and it's usually just a verifiable lie or something that's just straight retarded. And it's the buzzwords like normalize, like whatever, the words, the way they talk, like bruh
Yes.
or LMFAO, like
Yes.
shit like that.
Yes.
That's how the midwit communicates. And if that sort of content, now again, sometimes there are funny tweets that, like, you and I both like, got
Yeah,
100,000 likes, like something about
there's
sports,
funny
whatever.
tweets that
But,
use
but
that
if
verbiage.
that's but it's ironic to us, where it's like, if that's your language, and if your whole Twitter feed is just you retweet, especially if you try to like postulate about politics through retweets of just moronic stuff that's for idiots,
Right.
you're a midwit. Like, you don't understand. And at a meta level, you don't even understand the propaganda effort that's been done to put all this content out there. And it's by design. These tweets are being boosted by bots.
Well, and
This is all designed to target you and exploit your idiocy.
the other
And
thing is
that's
that
what's so critical to recognize.
you look at a lot of these tweets, and I know the ones you're talking about, like the make it make sense
Everyone knows.
ones.
Everyone
We
knows what
all
we're
know. If
talking
you're on
about, right?
Twitter, you know
Everyone knows what we're
exactly.
talking
If
about.
you look at, this is like kind of a side point. If you look at those accounts that get 100,000 likes and 200,000 or 100,000 retweets, 200,000 likes, those followers, they only usually have like around 1,000 followers. They usually have
Right.
like less than half of the followers that
Like
you and I have.
1 to 5,000. Yeah,
So it
right.
almost feels like there's a midwit push, and I can't prove this. There's no verifiable evidence behind it, but it almost feels like those, frankly, anti-white midwit ideas are being pushed by an algorithm or by something. I can't describe it, but when I see an account that has 900 followers with 100,000 likes and 200,000 retweets or whatever, I'm
Yeah.
like, there's something artificial pushing this. So when I see, a good example is I saw some black Twitter account. They were talking about did you see Governor Whitmer of Michigan? They
Yeah.
thwarted the
Yeah.
plot to kidnap her, and yeah, Fed check. And so they
Fed check.
some black Twitter account, Black Twitter, Black Twitter proper, because that is its own space of Twitter. They said they basically quote tweeted it and contrasted that with Kyle Rittenhouse getting off, and they basically said make it make sense. 100,000 retweets, and it's like only someone with 105 IQ could make that tweet make sense, actually, because without looking at the details, sure, on a surface level, that is the epitome of the 105, 110 IQ person. They take surface level examples and extrapolate that to everything they see in their world, and they think that makes them a genius.
With no understanding of like what are the underlying truths of these specific. They'll take two headlines and put them up against each other, and they just think they're like Sherlock Holmes, like making these fucking connections that are just so stupid. And these people are so dumb.
I hate
and they're like damn, bruh, shit, fuck, no cap, 600,000 likes, and it's like, dude, I just want to.
Yeah, dude, it makes me want to Fed post, but I can't, because I'll get banned. It's like, even me being Black, I'll get banned. It's ridiculous.
So here's a perfect example, and I wish I could turn the camera around. Tweet. I know a girl, and I just recently asked her to, because I can't follow stupid people anymore on Twitter. Like I can't. Like the shit that's really stupid gets brought into our side of Twitter or whatever, and we comment on it, whatever. But I can't anymore with like the blank and 8 others liked, and it's literally like the 9 stupidest people know, who them personally, and they're just an idiot. And like, so, well, I want to read this tweet. Lowercase u, Kano, what sucks? The fly is now gonna, like the rapper, letter B, the big story from this debate, and not the fact that he said systemic racism doesn't exist, LOL. So this is from wow. So look at the bio. So that tweet had 81,000 retweets and 336,000 likes.
336K
so
likes.
81K. 80. That's an 81K 336er.
Man.
The bio. He, him, 21. He, him, model. Find your Ikiga. Whatever that means.
I don't even know.
And so
I don't delve into that.
Whatever that means. Whatever that means. So we know, and this is not the problem, but this is, I guess it's
confirmation of the deeper problem.
It's that in itself is confirmation that you're an idiot. It's the and a midwit. That's confirmation that you're stupid. You have your pronouns in your bio, some dumb little catchphrase, whatever, and you've got 600 followers, and you put out a tweet, but it's like this person to this moron. They're like, and we're not even debating the merits of systemic racism right now. Anyone with a brain knows it's not real, and so, but we're not even debating merits of it. But that person, to them, it was such an obvious truth. Like, bruh. He said systemic racism doesn't even exist, which I don't even think he said in the debate. I watched the debate. I don't even think Mike Pence, I don't even think he said that. So anyways, but that's the problem. That's the midwit nature right there. It's like they've been spoon-fed this corporatized propaganda that they don't even understand is literally a mass effort to keep them retarded. And they're like, bruh, WTF, fam, shit whack, no cap. Like, how you finna say this shit don't exist, bro?
Exactly. Well, that's what I was gonna say is, like, I've been in social situations because I'm, in my personal life, I have friends, but I had other friends. I had a much larger friend group before I became more vocal online, that kind of like distanced themselves from me once I started pushing back on these cornerstones of truth to them. Now, I started questioning what is systemic racism? Actually, I'm Black and I get along just fine, actually, in my day-to-day life. Actually, everything's actually fine. And once I started pushing back on that, people started doing what you're saying that they do. They say, bruh, how are you going to say systemic racism don't exist when we just seen Breonna Taylor get blasted in a bed? And it's like, do you want to examine the specs of the case, or do you want to buy you? And you know that conversation right there. How you gonna say that shit don't exist when we just seen Ahmaud Arbery get blasted in the forehead with a shotgun, man? It's like, bro, okay, well, he was a lifelong criminal and he was like wrestling men for shotguns. That's probably one thing you don't do if you want
looking
to
for
not
houses
buy.
to rob, looking for houses to rob. What happened to these science people? What happened to natural selection? Like, I thought the left worships science. What?
No.
So what's the deal there?
The
And
left
you know,
is
I
so
had, and I don't even.
discredited when it comes to science at this point. It's a joke.
Yeah,
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 I love
it is a joke.
science, but don't even talk about Charles Murray and
So even that, I'm hesitant to get too specific because this is a personal relationship of sorts that's still ongoing. There was a person who is ostensibly supposed to be an incredibly intelligent, distinguished person who recently said, you know, he was talking about something to be like, and this was after the facts of the Breonna Taylor case came out, where she was not asleep. Now apparently there's speculation that she fired the gun, and I
that's
know a
what her
lot of
boyfriend
inside
said.
things, and I know a lot of inside things that I'm not even going to get into because I can't corroborate them.
Well, because you're,
but we know she was awake and she was in the hallway. This was determined by the investigation, not up for dispute.
Of course,
and he said, and this was after the ruling when all these facts came out, and he said, or you can be like Breonna Taylor, be asleep and you get murdered by a cop. This is a person who's supposed to be a highly distinguished intellectual, and they said a provable lie. And if you say like, oh, hey, you know, person, that's actually not true, not only will they take it as a personal insult, but they'll take it like as an attack on their time. Like, these people believe things that are legitimately not true, and
right.
and it's the greater like metastructure of midwit psychology, where they just exist in this sort of bubble of idiocy. And it's like, that doesn't mean like just because you're smart or you wrote a good paper on something doesn't mean you're not a midwit. It's usually those people who are. So it's like, and they don't get it. And so that was just something that really was remarkable to me, because it's like, you're here, you're supposed to be, but you're telling a verifiable lie that's supposed to be you know, one of the central like indications of that all your theories about racism, whatever,
Right.
that it's like this, you know, big existential threat. But it's not true. Like, it's like the example you used, Mr. Smarty, like literally isn't true. Like, it's a lie. It
Yes.
shouldn't be controversial. It shouldn't ruffle anyone's feathers to point out a blatant lie.
Right.
And that's what the midwit doesn't understand. And the last thing I'll say quickly is, to them, the truth on these specific matters isn't as important, because they've established and cemented this meta narrative of things that are happening, that the details of a particular instance aren't as important, because it doesn't matter, because we know the overarching theory is so true, because just look around.
A perfect
Just, you know,
example, a
and
perfect university example of that is the 1619 project, where it's historically disproven. It's not true. A lot of the things in that entire project by Nicole Hannah-Jones,
they've said it's not true.
they have admitted that it's not true. They have said, and actually, I will give a shout out, because I am here on YouTube. I want to give a shout out to Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter for the work they've done as far as trying to revoke their two Black professors at Brown and Columbia, respectively. They've done great work in trying to revoke Nicole Hannah-Jones's Pulitzer Prize for that project, because they'd acknowledge that it's not factual and it doesn't do Black people any good to believe in a lie. But what Nicole Hannah-Jones would say is that, well, even if I'm wrong on this particular example, it doesn't matter, because we'll look at where we're at today and look at Breonna Taylor, and they will use lies of examples to justify previous lies they've told, and it never ends. It doesn't end until you, Carter, are giving up your property to Jamarquius up the street. You know what I mean? It's like, it never ends. That's my point on that. So 1619 project is a great example of where a lie can just fly under the radar if it fits the meta narrative that the midwit already believes.
The fact checkers, these boisterous fact checkers who are so loud, like when Joe Biden's handlers say, we're going to have a fact checker live at the debate, and we're going to make sure the truth is being told. And yet they lie incessantly every single day, maliciously. It's not just an exaggeration, which Trump is guilty of, and nobody says it's
Oh
not.
yeah, no one.
But
But okay, actually, that ties in very nicely. Okay, so I'm going to flip this really quick. We've been talking about left-wing midwits. How do you characterize? Because there are right-wing midwits.
oh, of course, tons of
Exactly.
them.
So I think I look at a right-wing, and this is how I would characterize it. A right-wing midwit is someone who, and I've talked a lot of right-wing midwits out of this. Like, not in this case, it's actually important to distinguish between midwit and NPC, I think.
Right.
Midwit is not capable of escaping their trajectory of where their IQ is headed. They're just stuck in this endless loop of like, they're just going to believe what's fed to them. An NPC does have the ability to like be woken up. Maybe you can wake them up.
Right.
But the right-wing midwit is someone who is so glued to like William F. Buckley or what Sean Hannity says, and any criticism of the president means that you're a socialist. And I don't want to get into that one. There was a different one I was going to say, but not that one.
You're right.
If you criticize the president, you're a socialist. And legal immigration is good for the whole of the country, and it benefits the markets, and that actually benefits everyone. Rising tide lifts all boats, and it's like a software download.
Libertarians.
Libertarianism has infected the Republican Party to the extent that I find Republicans saying things like, I had a Republican friend DM me the other day when I came out as pro-life on Instagram. So he DM'd me and said, well, I disagree. He's Republican. He's registered. He says, well, actually, I disagree with you here. Abortion's fine as long as it's not taxpayer funded. And I was like, well, no, then you're just quantifying life based on who's paying for the murder. It's like, either you believe it's murder or you don't. So I think there's a lot of that midwit stuff in Republican circles also that I think gets lost on our side, where we think it's only the left that are midwits. And I'm not saying you're doing that, but I think a lot of people on Twitter do that, where it's like, oh, well, it's the left. Those are just dummies. No, the right is guilty of it too. I sent a super chat to Nick Fuentes the other night on his show, where I pointed out that Ben Shapiro came out after the first presidential debate and said that he thought both sides did terribly. Biden is evil and Trump is stupid. And he tried to have this mealy-mouthed centrist, and I'm not even calling Ben Shapiro necessarily a midwit. He has a high IQ. I just think he's evil, but he's appealing to the midwit. He's appealing to the person that's going to say, well, I think both sides are dumb. Both sides are just equalized dummies, and Biden's dumb and Trump is dumb. And I'm the smart centrist in the room. That is not the right way to think. There's one side that wants us dead, and there's one side that wants family and Christianity to thrive. It's literally that simple.
And at the end of the day, there's good and there's evil. If you're not able to make that distinction, you're just not very smart.
Then you're not very smart.
And that's right.
That's the red pill.
You're just not very smart.
It's not a Republican-Democrat fight that we're in right now.
No,
it is literally a good versus evil fight. I would link up. Wait, I'll let you go. I would link up with a 90 IQ good person before I would link up with a 160 IQ leftist. Like it just is, because they're just good people. It's goodness. It transcends all of it, actually.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, to quickly with Ben Shapiro, is that we don't want to elaborate too much,
but we all know what's going on there.
Ben Shapiro knows exactly what he's doing when he says the things he says. He has a vested interest in keeping capital markets free and using dog whistle terms like socialism and whatever, and just sort of talking fast and sustaining this illusionary conception that he's intelligent because he talks really fast and made some suicidal tranny like want to kill themselves, some 19-year-old tranny who's
Some
like,
blue-haired feminist who
who's
doesn't even know what her name is,
right, who doesn't even know what her gender is. Like, yeah, Ben Shapiro, like whatever, UCLA educated, Harvard law. Yeah, you're real smart,
Yeah,
bro.
you dunked on a midwit. Nice.
Right. And
Right.
so he knows what he's doing. But anyways, what's interesting though is that, and it is good versus evil, but I want to say this, and this is something I've said, is that look, not all people on the left they're not all evil. This is the problem, is that a lot of them are actually, at a personal level, many of them are actually good people. They're really nice, like they mean well. And it's like, that's the problem, is they just, and I'm hesitant to call people Midwit because I have friends that are Democrats. I'm like, I had a discussion with a black friend of mine who's a really good friend of mine, and we had a long conversation. I posted about Barack Obama on my story, and I said, look, you guys don't understand. I mean, this is literally all this talk about civility, decency, whatever. What they're saying is, like, corporate rule needs to come back now. Trump is the first threat to that since John F. Kennedy. We saw it happen to him. So I said, look, you say you miss Obama, whatever. He's the most bloodstained president in American history, which is just true. Like
It's
it's
literally
just true. Like
right.
it's just a fact. Like you shouldn't have emotion. And I had a few black friends talk to me about it. One of them got really angry, like he did, and he's not a guy who is gonna really speak intelligently on politics. And and he was really angry. I just said, God bless you, bro.
Yeah,
Like
that's all you
whatever.
can do in that
But
point.
yeah, but then I had another black friend who's a good friend of mine, really good guy, and and he wasn't adversarial about it. And we had a conversation. I said, "Look, bro, you know, what I want to convey here is that I'm not criticizing Barack Obama, the black man. I'm criticizing the 44th president of the United States and like the things he did and who was controlling him when he was in power. And that's the whole problem, is people are caught up in like, you criticize a black man, like you're a racist. Like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and I said, and what I said, and I thought this was a good point that I made, like, and it just sort of occurred to me. And as I said, look, man, I can recognize and even appreciate Barack Obama's Barack Obama's status as a role model for millions of black
Sure.
Americans and black people around the world, while still hating his presidency and and whatever. And so, and we
I
had a good
personally
discussion
never
about it.
felt
And
I
like,
personally never saw it that way because my father was involved in my life and I didn't need a black hero. I already had a black hero in my father. But I see that a lot with black men who didn't have a father growing up. They needed to see a black man succeed. I never needed to see that. I always saw black men succeed. I saw, I've seen enough in my personal life to where Obama is not the North Star of black success. It's like, yeah, that's great he did that. But holding him up as this black icon is like, I mean, yeah, I can see it for people who've been deprived of that, but I didn't really need that. But I see your point
I
though.
just, I think, and I think too, I mean, I think so, there are plenty of black people with fathers who like admire Barack Obama and do see him as that, almost a demagogue status.
Mhm.
And so, but if you're a person who knows a lot about politics, then you can't see him, no matter what your political affiliation is, like, because he didn't do anything that he campaigned on doing. The way he's misrepresented, I mean, the propaganda surrounding Barack Obama is literally more extreme than Kim Jong-un. People like,
It's like
it's like
godlike status,
it,
yeah.
and it's just, it's really interesting to look at. And like I said, I don't want to, but the point of this tangent was that, like, a lot of these people on the left, they mean well, but because we're talking about good versus evil, and we know the left is an institution, it's evil. I mean, these people are satanic, they're demonic, and they hide under this rhetoric of like, we want to fight racism, like we just want to love everybody and be compassionate. It's like I said, I tweeted one out, and I had a tweet get pretty big, like got a few hundred likes, and for whatever that is. But
No,
and
yeah.
I said this low IQ tweet, if I was an e-girl, or hadn't had my pronouns in my bio, would get 100,000 likes. And it was like, Democrat, hey, we just want to love everybody and be compassionate and give people health care. Republican, random Nazi shit. And it's
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that is like a low IQ that would get 250,000 likes, like if I was
Yeah.
just some fucking stupid girl, like
It'd
on
get
that side
promoted
of
by
Twitter.
Twitter, and it would be a great
Oh,
take, and it'd be
right.
something everyone would be showing themselves at the party that night.
You'd be
Oh, look at
patted on the
this is
back.
so true, and they'll regurgitate that point,
Yeah,
and they'd be they would
right.
say, "Look at this tweet. This is it, sis." And it's like,
Yeah, this like
I have literally been in those social situations where people are showing each other some 90 IQ tweet, and I had to stand there and just like be
and that is
quiet
like
and like that's what radical not
that's like 90 IQ. Like
yeah, that's
that's
not
for the
midwit. That's not
idiots.
midwit.
Like,
Midwit
yeah,
is someone who can here's the thing. Here's probably a good measuring stick of midwit versus low IQ, because they're not the same thing.
right,
A low IQ person shows that tweet at a party that you're talking about and says, exactly. A midwit is someone who can string together a lot of sentences that actually says, yeah, no, they're right about that tweet. That's the difference. The midwit can like justify the low IQ-ness. That's the thing with the
right,
midwit.
right,
They can string
right,
together a
right,
ton of
right.
sentences.
And they can explain it
They can
away.
explain it, even if it's incoherent. It works
A
for the
lie. Yeah,
leftists.
right.
Total lie, incoherent. They can say to the 90 IQ person, no, you're smart too. You're just like me. Really,
Right.
the thing with being high
Right.
IQ or even being on the right and having a coherent worldview is that you're not willing to pander to people like that and say, no, you're smart too. No, we're the people that are like,
Well, but people on
no,
the
you're
left,
just dumb and you need to come to our
right.
side or you're like
But
evil and dumb.
there's not on our side of the right. Yeah, we think that way, but there are plenty of, like we said, people. And let's talk about the right. I mean, there are plenty of people on the right, and it's we can't really get too specific because fundamentally they boil down to a couple issues, and it's like those are touchy subjects. But
Well, wait, hold on.
what? Hey Carter, what did you mean by it's a couple touchy subjects?
Well, here, I'll put it
You
this way.
care to elaborate? Like, let me just say.
I'm trying to think of someone who this applies to.
Well, there are people on the right too. Well, what I'm saying, not enough people on the right are like, hey, that's stupid. Like Ben Shapiro like fakes it with the facts or whatever. But then if you say like, hey, I don't think the IDF should be shooting 5-year-old Palestinians in the head. He's like, you're a raging anti-Semite.
What'd you just say there?
Like, hey, what'd you just say?
Cancel him. Cancel him. He's done. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
But
and so,
Shapiro,
we need to get a disclaimer. Well, we need to get a disclaimer out for anybody, because for people who like follow me, I've always wanted to tweet this. But if you're watching this video, you're still here. That's what we have to say about Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is literally a satanic demon. He is literally an agent of Satan. He believes Jesus is boiling in hell in pig semen. In a pot of excrement and pig semen. He thinks Jesus is the son of a prostitute mother who had sex with a Roman soldier in Egypt. Ben Shapiro hates you. He hates Christianity, and you're a useful tool for advancing the interests of Israel. That's all I'm going to say.
I heard nothing.
Stop listening to Ben Shapiro.
I heard no lies there.
Well, it's just true. These are things he's said. Like,
yeah.
He mocks Christianity. He's publicly mocked Christianity. Ben Shapiro is in the truest sense of the term, he is an agent of Satan. And you know what? This is a great example when we talk. Let's talk about the right now. So I'm using phrases like agent of Satan. Now, the midwit, if you can't see over the last 6-7 months the presence of good and evil in the world, you're never going to see it. If you think it's like, no, if we just listen to the science, then we've had 200,000 deaths and this is a result of Trump and and it's like, if you can't see that there are forces of good and there are forces of evil out there right now, you will never see it.
Then you're
never see it.
And that's why that's evil. Then at that point, it's like,
right. You're at least indirectly assisting.
Yeah, but it's like you're not trying.
But so we're Christians. We believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ. So to call someone and to say someone is an agent of Satan, that's not weird. But if I said this person's agent of Satan, people are like, well, hey there, no, we just have some disagreements on things, and I just think the estate tax should be a little bit bigger. And like, well, we're not getting into agent of Satan deal. No, it's like, no. Jesus is the Son of God. Like, you're satanic. Like, it's just that simple.
It's
like,
literally that, right?
and this is the problem. You know what? And here's a good let's incorporate some America First talking points. The midwit doesn't understand so I had a conversation, and I'm going to say the person I had this conversation with, he is not the way we think of as a midwit. He's a very smart person, good guy, like understands politics or whatever. But I was talking about how Christianity has to be the prevailing structure under which the right operates. And he said, and I said, there's no room for like promoting homosexuality, the trans issues, these other things. It's directly against the Bible. It can't be promoted in any way. If you want to be right adjacent and you want to vote with us, that's fine. But understand, you and your lifestyle will never be promoted publicly. You'll never be on
Yeah,
stage
like
talking
there's no
about your
room
beliefs. At
for
the end of the
that.
day,
There's no Rob
there's no
Smith
room for
moment
you.
here.
And the person said, who's a conservative, he said, well, what about Guy Benson? And I said, and like
No.
he was just he was like, and it's like, no, dude, like, no, not Guy Benson. Like, Guy Benson is married, like, to, and the way I look at homosexuality, I mean, ultimately, and I do believe it's, a result of maladaption and maladjustment, whatever.
There's usually something a lot
And we just
deeper. There's usually something a lot
and we
deeper
know,
there than them just being gay.
and
It's like,
we know 60% of gay people report being molested as a child. So ultimately, it's just a weird sort of sexual
it's like a
perversion.
coping mechanism for
Right, right, right. And so
usually.
you typically, and so the way I look at homosexuality is, ultimately an act of engaging in homosexual, like, whatever. It's just a sin. It's no different than if we watch pornography, if we had heterosexual intercourse outside of marriage.
It's
But
true.
marrying a gay person, a homosexual marriage, while claiming to be a Christian, that's blasphemous. It's heretical. You are literally, I'm not even going to do it when I say it, because that would be blasphemous. It's giving a middle finger to God. You're literally saying, no, God, like, my situation outweighs what the scriptures have laid out for us. And so that, especially if you're a gay married person, and this isn't bigoted or anything to say, like, this is consistent with biblical teaching, is that, so you're not a credible voice on Christianity. I
Right.
don't want you in our
If you want to
movement.
do,
If you want to vote with us, that's fine. But
but if you want to,
I'm not
if you want
interested.
to do that on
The
the
last thing,
left,
I'm not interested in your moral, like, whatever, dude. You can shut up. Like, you've literally said fuck you to God, and you're doing it perennially. Like, in being married, it's a never ending active sin. We all sin. Lord knows I've sinned a ton. I've got flaws in my character. You've got flaws in your character. But there's no consistent sin that we're engaged, that we've it's like a
it's
tree.
true.
We've planted the sin, and it's never uprooted. That's going to exist until the day Guy Benson dies.
Yeah. And the thing
And so
is that it's the sin.
you can't believe in the scripture.
Even if you believe in the idea that you're born gay, the sin is not being gay in and of itself. It's participating in the sinful act through sexual acts and marriage. It's not. The Catechism of the Catholic Church actually creates a little cutaway there. They say, yeah, even if we acknowledge that people are born gay, it's still sinful to participate in homosexuality, and gay marriage is still wrong. The caveat there is that you can still marry and you can partner with the church to figure out the best way to live your lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. Don't participate in that lifestyle. Don't do X, Y, Z. The sin is not
And
being born who you are.
the lifestyle is so filthy. For
It's,
not all, not all.
but
I've got a great friend who's a great guy, and he has a relative who is gay, and from what he's told me is that his relative does not, isn't a part of that lifestyle, the gay lifestyle, where you walk around with your dick out and walking around in underwear and you're grooming underage boys like so many of these homosexuals are. So that's not what we're saying. But the gay lifestyle in the contemporary setting of, like, being a member of the LGBTQIA plus and, like, associate your personal identity is inextricable from your sexuality, that lifestyle is degenerate, and it's evil. And if you have to constantly make everything a thing about your sexuality, that's just wrong
yeah,
biblically,
and
no matter
but
what you are.
it's also this weird thing, and I'm not trying to be like a normie here with like the Republican talking points, but there's something weird about making your whole identity the other. It's like, well, it's even black conservatives do this. They say, well, like Rob Smith is a great example. He actually ties both of these in together. He's like, I'm your favorite gay black Republican. And it's like,
Right.
dude, why don't you just be a Republican? Like, not that I'm
Right.
even supporting the gay part of that, but like, why do you have to be like, I'm a gay black Republican? It's like, dude, me in my personal brand, I never say like I'm the black paleo conservative who watches Nick. No,
Right.
I'm just a paleo conservative who's American and I'm a Catholic. It's literally that simple. That's how I view myself.
Right.
I'm a
Right.
Catholic, paleo conservative, America firster. I don't need qualifiers after that. It's cringe after that.
Right.
Because then you're getting
It
into
is.
territory like the left does, where they say, as a black female, I believe that. It's like, why would your point of view hold any more credence with qualifiers than it would without? I want my ideas to stand on their
Right.
own. So I think that's where
Right.
where a lot of even conservatives
Yeah.
miss the
Right.
boat.
And that's the thing, is it's like, what are your actual core convictions? You know, what do you actually like believe in? Okay, so you what loosely say like, I believe in stopping systemic racism and that women should have access to reproductive health care. Or like, you know, dude, and here's the thing. One of my favorite cop outs when people are scared to admit they were raised in a conservative family, and I've met interacted with girls like this in college, as they say, because you know I'm open about what I believe. I don't have a problem, you know, talking about it or whatever. But I hear people and they're like, and I've talked to girls at my school and they're like, well, I'm fiscally conservative but socially liberal, and it's like
At this point,
okay,
I'm the inverse of
but like
that.
exactly, that's what we are. Like
I'm
I'm
socially
fiscally
conservative,
liberal.
fiscally liberal.
I'm
Spend the
right,
money.
right, right.
Whose money is that? Money doesn't, the economy doesn't even really exist, basically, at this point. It's fake. It's
Yeah,
fake
right.
money. It's fun coupons. What I care about is what the future looks like for my cousins and my future children, actually. Are they going to walk
And
into a world that
so,
wants to murder white people? I don't want that. That's not stable for
right.
anyone at
And
all.
that, and I think that's what the right misses is a fiscally liberal, socially conservative right would actually draw in more people. Like, you don't appeal to a community that's, you know, not, that 95% Democrat. You don't appeal to them through low taxes. Like, you appeal to them by making your lifestyle better and actually winning them over. This is the problem. The right doesn't make any firm moral stances because they're reticent to associate themselves inextricably with Christianity. And so there are so many black Christians out there, and yet they all vote Democrat. And it's like that's because, dude, they don't give a fuck about like low taxes. Like, they don't. Just if we look at the data, just a lot of African Americans are just, you know, poor. The taxes, they're already in the lowest tax bracket. They don't care about
Yeah,
their little
exactly.
tax cut. They
It's
don't
such
care
a
about their little
joke.
tax
It's
cut.
such a joke. The whole tax thing. Um, I do need to wrap up here shortly because I do have some guests coming over, but the whole tax thing is a joke where people act like it's like this lie we have to tell ourselves that minorities don't, it's not even minorities, it's blacks and illegal immigrants that don't pay their fair share, that take out more than they put in. Asians pay in plenty. Frankly, even Indians put in plenty. My objections to their immigration are largely cultural, that I don't want the fabric of America changed on
Right,
a base level.
right.
But when you
And
just go,
people are scared to say that.
oh,
People are scared to say that.
you can't even talk about
No,
that.
you
And
can't even. I'll never forget. I'm so, I have to put this.
go
This is a
for it.
great example, and I think maybe we should spend 5 or 10 minutes at the end talking about the debate, just because we didn't, and like, but we've already kind of deconstructed them. But I want to give a great example. So last fall, I had I've had two professors that stood out to me. One was African. He was from Ethiopia. Brilliant man. One of the most just brilliant, high consciousness. I don't have enough good things to say about him. Absolutely loved him. And we had a discussion one time. We were talking about homogeneity, which, you know, for those of you who don't know, it's just the how a culture's standing and like whatever. We were talking about homogeneity and meaning that people in a culture should be the same by and large. And I said, look, Dr. Kabede, and he's famous, so I can say his
You
name.
can name drop them.
And I can name drop him, but I said, look, professor, what you're, you know, so he was raised in Ethiopia. He studied in France, and now he's in America. He criticized he used to be a Marxist. he criticized his Marxist government and was expelled from the country as an adult. And so I said, look, this is what people don't understand. If you're standing and at the edge of the cliff, there's a Ethiopian, a Frenchman, and an American, and they all drop at the same time. I said, and you have an instinctual reaction. You can only save one. I said, you're going to save the Ethiopian and the Frenchman second, probably, and the American third. But that's not as important as you're going to save the Ethiopian for, and no one should fault you for that. Like that's your natural instinct. The person who looks like you, speaks like you, worships the same God or gods as you. That's called human nature. And I wouldn't fault you for it as I plummeted to my death. And I said, and I'm looking as these like blue-haired freaks are like looking around in shock, and like these rich white liberals are like stunned. And they said, this one girl goes, what? And I said, because it's only in America where someone would go like, must save, oppressed people, like must save color, like,
Well, it's an interesting study about racial and group preference. The only subsect of racial how do I phrase liberals. It's white liberals. They're the only ones that have a negative in group. And John Doyle red-pilled me on that. Exactly. They're the only group that actually dislikes themselves. Now, white Republicans, white conservatives have a slight in-group preference, not even close to as much as blacks have an in-group preference, but a slight.
Hispanics, all of them.
Indians, everyone, Jews, white or Jews, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, Indians, Caribbeans, you name it. The only people.
It's only white people.
And then that's when you take
only white people.
That's when you take this red pill before we get into the election. Racism. Last thing. Racism is just a word that's meant to pathologize in-group preference among white people. That's why conservatives don't understand. A normie conservative doesn't understand why the racism label doesn't stick to black people when they say F white people and throw them the middle finger. They say, well, why doesn't it work when I call him racist? It's because racism is only meant to stick against white people. It doesn't work against Jews. It doesn't work against Hispanics.
And they've intellectualized it by saying racism is
power.
Systemic. It's a system. It's power. It's wealth.
Privilege.
It's everything.
It's everything you've ever done well in your life. That's racist.
So you can't. Well, what about South Africa? What about Zimbabwe?
It doesn't fly.
It's like no.
It doesn't fly because
racism.
Because Carter, you don't know about the structures of power in Western Europe in the mid 1600s. I mean, it's like, well, okay.
Racism was always, the only intention of it was always to pathologize white consciousness. That's not a controversial thing to say.
It's not at all. It was to pathologize white consciousness and white in-group preference. Everyone has in-group preference. There's nothing wrong with that.
Now
I'm in an actually.
And to be clear, it's like I have black friends, Hispanic friends, like Asian friends.
That's not even a necessary qualifier.
I know.
But yeah, you're right.
But like I want to be clear. Like when people watch this, like if people who stumble across this and they're like, wait, I know Carter. Like, did he just use the term white consciousness? And it's like, every group has a consciousness except white people. Doesn't mean you're a fucking Nazi.
It's not.
Shut up.
It's not even
retard.
It's not even that white people don't have a consciousness. It's that even if they were to gain it, it would be demonized, and that's a fireable offense. It's like, why is that? Why? Think the why behind it. It's like,
we know why, but for this question, we'll leave viewers with asking themselves the why question. Why are white people not allowed to interrogate their own group consciousness? That's a whole other video that we could totally go into. But
every other group,
and not only are they permitted to, they're encouraged to.
Right.
They're encouraged to think as a tribe. Only white people. Ask yourself why. Let's
might be because of the tribe, but anyway, let's get it.
No comment.
I said it. That wasn't you. That was all me. All
no
Jordan
comment.
B. All Jordan B on that one. So Midwit theory does tie in nicely to a lot of the commentary that we saw regarding last night's VP debate between Pence and Kamala. you had the idea to kind of tie that in. If you want to start on it, and I can jump in. How some of the commentary
Yeah,
from the VP debates ties into midwit theory, and some of the she's such a queen. Look at how she
yeah, she did
squinted at
that.
him.
Yeah.
She did the head
No.
bob, and she was speaking, and that's mansplaining actually. And it's like, not to get normie left right dichotomy here, but it is very much like mansplaining. That's your biggest concern. You retweeted me earlier. Women's biggest complaint in 2020 is that they're occasionally interrupted by men. Like that is their biggest issue, their biggest hurdle. So,
Yeah. So no, but it's good. So with the debate, and I tweeted about this as well, is that look, the people who are like Ben Shapiro, who understand midwit psychology and how to distribute content that will elicit mass appeal from midwits, is that midwits at a basic level can't care about substance. They think they do, but they don't. And so when Kamala Harris has the debate, they're saying there's people that are stupid to understand this. Like they're going back before, they're like rigorous prep for weeks. They're showing her pictures of the Daenerys Targaryen, and the other thing, and they're like, look, this is what you've got to do. Like you've got to look at Mike Pence like he's an idiot. You've got to do the like, please, like, like,
yeah,
they're like, you've got to do that. They're like, go ahead and practice that. They're like, and Kamala Harris goes like, and they're like, no, try and with your eye, like try to go, like you're really confused. You're really just shocked at the audacity.
It's
like,
more like they hired acting coaches instead of political consultants before the debate.
Right. Right. And so what's happening is, what they're doing is, the way this appeals to the midwit is, so when there's just a couple screenshots of Kamala Harris going
with the cat, and it's like you said, it's exactly like you said. They take two screenshots, and did you see that normie liberal, total bug man? He quote tweets 3 screenshots of her going with LMAO.
Kamala wasn't having any of that, and it's like the people who are retweeting this didn't even watch the debate. Like they didn't even look at the substance.
Right.
Oh, don't tell me I lost you.
No, we're here.
Come on. We're
Carter.
No. I feel like you can hear me.
Carter, I can hear you.
But you're frozen on my screen. Yeah. Okay, hey, here we are. So this is exactly what happens, is that they for people who didn't even watch the debates, and they see it's like Kamala really wasn't having any of that, and it's just Kamala Harris going and they're like, yeah, like she wasn't putting up with none of that. Like people like Jamel Hill, these other just morons who are Kamala said, I'm not taking no BS tonight.
Bro, Jamel, hold on. I didn't know you knew who she was. I hate Jamel Hill. Oh, like it's not even a racial thing with her. It's not a racial thing. It's literally,
no, of course it's not a racial thing. It's not a racial thing. You're just an idiot.
She's so snarky, and she's so dumb. She's dumb and snarky, and she just has a
dumb as a rock.
I read some of her tweets, and it's like that. No, dude, exactly. Jamel Hill is the epitome of the midwit, of the journalist.
Midwit. Jamel Hill is the midwit. Like she'll be like, we had a discussion to discuss white supremacy and how it functions in tandem with capitalism. And so it's straight up retards like, damn man, Jamel Hill be going off.
Jamel Hill be going off, man. You seen Jamel Hill in that video talking about them cops?
Did that,
bro? You seen Jamel Hill talking about them cops, bro? She working for the Atlantic now, man. She writing them articles, and it's like, dude, she is not bright. She is really dumb. So
stupid.
I know
such an idiot. It just kills me.
Because it's one of my last night. One of my only normie indulgences is sports. That's it. All I have left is sports that I enjoy. Right. I like my basketball. I mute the coverage. I don't watch it on ESPN because I don't want to give them viewers. I stream it from illicit sources, blah, blah, blah. to not give them money. I do the things, but people like Jamel Hill exist because I watch sports and I like hate myself that I'm like giving her career in existence. Like I hate Jamel Hill and people like that. Stephen A. Smith is a similar way.
Right.
Stephen A. Smith is similar. He called
He's
Steve.
gotten bad.
He's gotten really bad. He used to
Fucking
be
Max
objective.
Kellerman, like,
He called.
I know.
I'll end this sports convo here, but he called Steve Nash getting the job with the Brooklyn Nets. He called that white privilege. Like, no, dude, Steve Nash is just super high IQ. Like,
and one of the best basketball players of all time, and one of the
I'm
few
from
who
Dallas,
can
bro. I
navigate the dynamic. And
I saw Steve Nash in his heyday in Dallas.
And trying to navigate the dynamic of having two top 10 superstars in the NBA on the same team when you have a moody point guard and a moody
and a disconnected
league.
superstar who doesn't care about dynamics and he's just smoking weed all day. Right. So yeah, anyway, I agree.
And so
huge agree.
Steve Nash, well, dude, but and it's so performative, like with these people, because they're expected to do it now. Like dude, we grew up on Stephen A. We can tell when Stephen A. means what he says, and now it's like he's doing his sports rants talking about like white supremacy,
just like Kellerman, like you said. Kellerman is another great example. I just want to like hurt. I want to be in a self-defense situation with Max Kellerman.
Yo, Max Kellerman, can I get a Wikipedia check?
Yo, exactly. Kellerman literally says shit like, as a white man. It's like Max.
Can we get a Wikipedia? Can we get an early life check?
Yo, can I get
Hello, Wikipedia.
Hello.
I'd like to do a referral. I'd like you to check your files.
My fellow whites check.
Hello, fellow Anglo. But
anyway.
No, but that's the Steve. That was so stupid and so performative. These people, they don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even know what they're saying. It was scripted and just a bunch of bullshit. And they're talking out their ass. But anyways, in regards to debate, we'll circle back to that. Is that people that like that's it? It's just like, I'm not even gonna do like a black voice or whatever, but that people see like Kamala Harris making some smug bitch look, and they're in the dynamic of the younger brown woman to the old white man, and they're like, she wasn't having none of that white man BS, and it's like, dude. And I have leftist friends. Honestly, the smartest person I know is like a hardcore communist. He's straight up brilliant. He's just an atheist. He's brilliant. And so, but he's an atheist, so he's not going to be on the right, but he's embracing the right. I told him to come to the dark side. But anyways, that's all it is for people now. These are people who, if you a basic understanding of every word that came out of Kamala Harris's mouth last night was a complete and total lie. Right. Anyone objective, like the voters that the Biden campaign need to win in Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, they're looking at like, whoa, that woman's a heartbeat away from the presidency. This smug bitch. Yeah. Like this, like what? But people like over socialized neurotic freaks on social media, like, she really did that. She wasn't having none of that.
Well, what I saw today from millennial women I was there all day today on Instagram. On my feed, it was all millennial women basically regurgitating the take that she was mansplained to, that she was interrupted. And it's like,
it's a fucking debate.
It's like, what your critique of her treatment as a woman is that she was treated like a man in a debate. It's like you wanted her to get special treatment and not get it. It's like, these are all over. And here's the other thing. The people that were having these takes weren't low IQ people. That's what I actually really noticed. The thing that stuck out to me the most was the people with these
neurotic
takes,
and over socialized.
They were neurotic, over socialized midwits. They were 115 IQ people who did graduate from college with in some cases, one I saw was a law degree. One of them was a sociology degree. Yeah. I knew these people from my younger life. And I was like, you're not dumb. You're a midwit. And I'm smarter than you. And because
right?
I'm
You're
sorry.
not dumb. You're not dumb. You're just stupid.
Yeah.
Like you're not dumb. You're just stupid.
You're not
You're
even
just
dumb.
stupid.
You're just, yeah.
And this is and it's like, and it was like this when I had a person, you know, a black person get really upset at what I said about Barack Obama. I wasn't going to get into the insults, and the person is a really nice person. I mean, it's a he, like, and he's a really nice guy, but he didn't like, he couldn't understand, like, dude, I don't give a fuck what color Barack Obama is.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Barack Obama. Like, I'm
He
talking
was a
about the 44th
murderer.
president of the United States. Like, he literally he's ruined millions of lives. And I should, and people are so dumb, and it's like, so did George Bush, so did Bill Clinton, so did George
Well,
Bush
you know
Sr.,
who
so
didn't?
did Ronald
You know who
Reagan,
didn't? Trump. But they can
Donald
never,
Trump.
they can't even
No,
conceptualize the idea that Trump is the
because
only
he's
one
a
that didn't start,
because he's
because he's a fascist. He's an
the only
orange
one,
Nazi.
because he's a fascist dictator. He's a fascist dictator. Just look at the infographic that Becky put on her Instagram story.
Exactly.
Here's the parallel. It was so clear. The info was right there. Like, what do you mean? How could you deny this obvious truth in this trendy font, stupid little infographic? It's right there. Trump is literally, this is Weimar Germany. Like, this is literally Germany in the 1930s before Hitler's rise to power.
Yeah. We're in
Like someone like we're like, I'm imitating like these people. Like that's what I'm saying. Like they're like, who are
I see
like
what
when
you're
someone, yeah, when someone
saying.
goes on CNN, when someone goes to see, they're like the Trump, like, here's our historian on, you know, da da da, and they're, you know, and they've studied Nazi Germany, and here's why they're going to come on and talk about why Trump is like, this is literally, you know, the underpinnings of Hitler's rise to power in the 1930s. And it's like, no, bruh, there's a couple things that are making you say that, because you're just a corporate agent, and either you know it, people like Anderson Cooper, who are literally CIA assets, or you're just too
Yeah,
stupid to realize it, or
literally
you're too stupid
Operation
to realize it.
Mockingbird. Yeah.
There are three things, okay, that are Trump's most significant violations, and I'm going to name two of them, and you know the other one is mass immigration, which has to do with labor, cultural homogeneity, and whatever. That's one pillar of the corporate oligarchs. Number two is war, the vested interest, the military industrial complex. I hate that phrase, the military industrial complex. Like, no, they're
But
just people who profit off of war
yeah.
and everything it brings. So we'll say the military industrial complex.
Even that ties into corporate oligarchy. And the third one, I know it's
that's what it is.
It's cucking Israel.
It's
That's
Israel.
not even a problem.
It's Israel. And the reality is, if Trump wasn't a staunch ally of Israel, he'd be in a grave right now. That's just
Exactly.
the reality.
And also,
you know?
he may have not
He'd be
even been
dead.
elected president because he may not have gotten that money from Sheldon Adelson. It's like he's playing the price to play ball, which I don't even like that. That's a standard that's even a part of a politician having to be able to play ball, is that you have to be pro-Israel. I don't like that personally. That's just me.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, and that is the thing, and that is the thing, is it's like there's this bipartisan consensus on, we just sort of uncritically accept it. I mean, we don't even have to spend time really getting into Israel.
No.
Just ask that question, like,
right.
Why is it that even the Democrats support Israel, when the reality is they're out there blowing off Palestinian kids' head and destroying them with bombs,
right?
And they're doing all kinds of really bad things, just objectively, like that violate human rights, which the left ostensibly holds in sacrosanct is basic human rights. There are not basic human rights of the Palestinians. Whether you can debate the merits of that, whether it's justified or not, we're not even doing that. But the Palestinians do not have basic human rights. They just don't.
No,
and the question is, so that's a question I think is deserving to be asked. And so that's that. The three pillars, it's essentially immigration, war, and Israel, and everything that entails. And those are the three pillars of being involved in American politics, this corporatized oligarchic democracy. We don't live in a democracy, but people think we do.
Right.
And so, those are the three things. And I'm not sure how we got distracted about that from the debates, but like it just shows. I mean, when we're talking about midwit psychology, is we're just people, to repeat the phrase, I haven't used it in a little bit, but you just don't have a capacity for critical evaluation and critical analysis. And that fundamentally is what defines, in italics, the psychology of the midwit. There's not an ability to critically evaluate and critically analyze, and not just to do it in a way that aligns with a truth that you or I may have reached independently. Because like I've said, I have a communist friend who recognizes everything we recognize, like everything we recognize, he fully understands. He happens to be a Nietzschean leftist. It is what it is, but it doesn't matter because we're going to find common ground with that leftist on almost all domestic policies
Exactly.
non-related to
You
Christianity.
guys would actually
And
identify a lot of similar problems. That's the funny thing.
yeah, the
Mostly
far
similar
right,
problems.
I mean, well, I hate to,
I hate, but it's
like,
true though. It shouldn't even
but
be
it's
far
like
right.
if we're like far right, I mean, again, we're allowing ourselves to be defined by the artificial parameters of discourse of left and right,
Right.
which even though in many respects we're on the far left, but whatever.
I know,
we're
right?
hardcore social.
Well, yeah,
We're
we already
hardcore social
we already
conservative. I mean,
admitted
what
we already
we're
admitted
social
that.
conservative. We're social conservatives of what, the 1960s. So I guess we're like far right now.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
people literally think.
Well, you already admitted that when we said that we're socially conservative but fiscally liberal. That would put us on the far left, according to 90% of Fox viewers.
Right.
You know.
So no. So
Yeah, man.
so dude, maybe that's a good point to end. We'll have to do these on different topics.
I want to do this again.
Was good.
Man. I thought it was really substantive.
I hope the viewers were able to keep up. Like, I hope it wasn't too discursive. We were going to start with the debates, but then but I feel like our discussion of midwit psychology sort of allows people to then extrapolate that to the debate and just sort of understand, like, and actually ask those questions. So
and apply it to other things like the debate. So
exactly.
I think part one explained midwit psychology really well, and I think part two was about the debates and where that led to, gave people a good overlay of how they can apply midwit psychology to other things: the debates, the elections, the left and right, the false dichotomy. I think it was good, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to do it again. I'm down. Again, Carter, we can find Carter. Where can we find you on Twitter?
If I'm on Twitter I shouted it out. I feel like you'll tweet out the link.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even like to have people coming over onto my
profile.
I fluctuate between public and private. But
no, I'll tweet it out,
I mean,
and you can retweet it if you want.
Yeah, I'll retweet it for sure. I want people to watch this video.
I think it was good, man.
A lot of good things. Yeah,
this is the first video I've done from my new apartment, so I'm happy with my setup. I like the little vibe we got going here. So
yeah, 100%.
I'm happy, man. All right, bro. Well, it was a good talk.
Cool.
I'll catch you later. I will catch
you as well,
on
man.
Twitter. Later, bro.
Always.
Have a good one.
Always.
Peace.
Yeah, bro.